Your time.
So thank you very much for having me one more year here. So by the way, I marked all of Kamailio worlds, so should be pioneer here. Yes, so hello everybody. My name is Dan Bogos. I'm core developer of CGRateS project. I represent the company located here in Germany, in Bavaria. You know the nice Oktoberfest. It's our environment where we develop. Got over 10 years of experience with all these server-side solutions. We have handled both wholesale as well as retail. So we kind of understand what a live system outage is. About CGRateS project, it's what we call a real-time enterprise billing suite. We call it enterprise because it's closer towards a framework, so you can adapt it for your own needs. We do pretty generic stuff, so all we do is mathematics. So we sometimes we work even at lower level than people expect us to do, because all we do is handling rules and mathematics. So it's pretty customizable, and we design it in a way that it should be pluggable in more or less any network you have out there. It should be easy to just add a new component in your network. So for example, if you want to add a new VoIP switch or a new SMS service, you should just make sure there is a plugin for CGRateS or in CGRateS. If there is none, then it should be fairly easy to develop one on your own. We are non-intrusive into existing setups, so we don't force you routing your traffic through a switch of our choice or all sorts of tricks like that. Your scalability and architecture should not be affected by getting this new component into your network. We are an open source software, so full sources are available on GitHub. No add-ons in private repositories, and that's with a purpose. We believe that billing is more or less same like firewalls or other security products. They are more secure when they are viewed in an open source world. So we are kind of scared to put private plugins which are not tested by our community. So this is very valuable to us. And regarding community, we appreciate it a lot, so we invite anybody to join. The software itself is performance-oriented. I don't think anybody would like that the billing will slow down their call setups. So we need to be fast enough to cope with the speed of your network. And having a Kamailio network, this is even more important because we all know Kamailio is extremely fast. We got, for this performance, optimizations, we got some built-in advanced caching system. So we use databases, but most of the data we handle from our own cache. So there will be, there are also various strategies to handle data, but you can either pre-cache when the server starts, or you only do one cache and then the record stays there for as long as you want it. For example, 1 day, or if you choose LRU, this strategy will always keep a limited number of data, of records in the cache, and always keep like a hot information there. Asynchronous processing with microthreads. This has an advantage that you don't run out of system threads. So you can have maybe millions of microthreads without any problem. The project itself is a test-driven development project from day one. We had at some point more than 1,500 tests out of our build, and then we stop counting. So it should be fairly well tested. It has a modular architecture, cloud ready, if you want to call it like that. If you want to put it on any kind of virtual machines, Docker, or stuff like that, it's all in there. All components are treated like microservices, and all are having their own set of APIs. So you can very easily replace some of our components with your own, depending on your needs. And if you want to expand or add private functionality to your stuff, which you want to be protected in your network, then you just replace a component of our own with your own component. Feature rich. So we got all this stuff: online, offline charging, multi-tenancy, rating engine. This is actually our first feature we came up with. With derived charging, so we have this session forking for cases when you want to bill for the same call. You want to bill the reseller, distributor, supplier. So we simply fork the sessions or fork the CDRs for you, and we are able to run multiple billing on the same CDR, and then you can query it as separate independent CDRs. Account balances management. This was, again, something we worked very hard on because it's quite complex there. We use all sort of bundles which are typical in mobile environment. So you can offer minutes to destinations in various fallback modes. You can offer bonuses. So if your customer is calling this destination for this number of minutes, you can offer them free SMSs or give them special prices on other destinations and so on. So this is a pretty advanced functionality when it comes to account bundle management. Session or event charging with balance reservation and refunds. This is another hot topic because via this mechanism, you can have multiple sessions out of the same account. So if you have like 1,000 simultaneous calls out of the same account, and the account ran out of credit, then all of the 1,000 will be simultaneous disconnected. Then CDR logging. We have a centralized CDR server. It can be used for many components. It has plugins for all the almost all the projects out there. So Kamailio, FreeSwitch, Asterisk, OpenShips, Radius plugin, Diameter plugin. So all are there. There is also separate RPC methods for that. So you can, if we don't have a plugin for your own switch, you can very easily write your own. Fraud detection with automatic mitigation. We monitor fraud in 3 different subsystems. I'll show you more on that. LCR, some advanced LCR with QoS, quality-based LCR, or LCR over bundles. Call statistics with pattern monitoring. I'll talk about this a bit more in detail. Diameter or Radius server with process templates, making this standard agnostic. So it's, Diameter has quite some standards. Also, Radius, quite some approaches. So via these templates, you can get what you can get also in Kamailio script. For example, you customize a lot of things inside. So resource allocation controller is the new subsystem, which I will also talk about today. Built-in high availability support. And we educate ourselves towards being agile in developing new features. A bit of the history. Here is when we started publishing the code in 2012. You need to think about, in 2012, Go was in weekly release mode, so it was not even stable. We took quite some chance going with Go. Well, it was still Google, but going with a new language and a fresh billing system, it was quite some adventure there. In 2013 is when we came first time at Kamailio World, and ever since our code base increased. And it didn't increase just for the sake of having more lines of code, but this means functionality, because we tend to be conservative in adding new features. And we reach now 120,000 lines of Golang, which is, I would say, a compressed language. You see our commits and so on, they were quite stable. Lately, we got a bit slow down in commits, because we consider ourselves to finally reach the stable architecture we want. So we should also go for the stable release. Our master, in theory, is the stable version. So even if you don't find an updated release, we run master in production sites. So this is just because we have all these tests, it's very easy for us to control the quality through them. The community grew. So that would be about the project. Few subsystems, which are the most popular, you can find here. The RALs, what we call rating, accounting, and LCR. CDR Server, Session Manager, Diameter Agent, CDR Stats, Resource Limiter, User Servers, Aliasing, PubSub. So we wrote all of our own to be able to control and fine-tune the quality via this. So we use very few external stuff. Most of the things is built in-house, so we can properly give assurance on the quality. Regarding the rating, it's highly configurable. I would just mention here, you can rate every nanosecond in your call differently if you like to. So that should say a lot. You can schedule the rating in the future. So if you have at the first of the month changing between all the new tariff plans, it should be very easily doable. Also, the engine knows when to split the call. So if you have a call in the old, a part of the call in the old month, and a part of the call in the new month, the engine will clearly separate them and treat them, handle them differently. Regarding our accounts, you can have unlimited balances, and you can prioritize them. So we support voice, like minutes, then data, SMS, MMS, then monetary, what are funds, and also generic. If you want to put cars or, I don't know, VMs, cycles, or anything else in CGRateS, it's doable via the generic type. We do, as I told, concurrent session handling. This is a bit sensitive because you reserve balance in chunks of debit intervals, so every few seconds. And then you need to know when to do refunds, in which balance to do, because it could be that during one cycle you have consumed out of more balances, and you need to know which one to refund if your customer hang up before. So when he starts the call, we will, let's say, book the next 10 seconds, and if he hangs up in 7, we will refund the last 3 seconds back. And that only if it's possible, because if you're charging per minute and he spoke 3 seconds, we don't refund anything else up to a minute, because this is how you want to charge. And debit slip, it's exactly this. If we are charging every 10 seconds and you have configured minute billing, then we will be slipping for the next 60 seconds, so we don't overload the rater unnecessary. The LCR, it's pretty advanced. I recommend in using it together with Kamailio if you have LCR needs. It integrates with LCR over bundles. So if you get from one of your partners 1,000 minutes with special price or free over weekend, CGRateS is able to integrate that in your LCR and take it out when the minutes are gone. Of course, minutes are calculated out of CDRs. Integrate with traffic patterns, so you can, if you know that during the day, let's say 5 p.m., you have an ACD of 3 minutes, you can ask the LCR for 3 minutes or 3 minutes and a half, and then CGRateS is able to cope with that query. Quality-based, as I told, route first to route to the cheaper supplier, but with ASR not lower than 40% or things like that. So all sorts of combinations are possible using the strategies. CDR Server, as I told you, it has many interfaces. It's also able to handle offline CDR imports. So if you get from your suppliers or your CSV files, XML files, or fixed width value files, we can do templates. You can also handle various templates in various folders because we can monitor them in the same time. And it's pretty powerful because it's all asynchronous. CDR exporter, an interesting functionality is the real-time CDR replication. And this offers you the possibility to send us the CDR, like push us the CDR in real time and get it in few milliseconds back to you as already rated. So you can then store it on your own side. You can even disabling storing on CGRateS side. So this should offer you the integration very easily. You don't need to change your existing infrastructure or your web interface or anything you like to, or anything you have today. You don't need to change because all we send you, it's a CDR which is already rated. From there, what you do with it, it's your own responsibility. This is just to imagine the flow. As I told you, we all have microservices, so we can talk. The CDR server, for example, talks to various subsystems via RPC or internal RPC. Internal, of course, is way faster, but if you want to scale on various hardware or on various Docker instances, you can very easily communicate over remote RPC. Just to have an idea, a single instance of CGRateS should handle in remote RPC mode from even another development language about 5,000 requests per second. Internally, we do like 80,000 requests per second, so it should be fast enough. CDR stats, it's highly performant, again, standalone component. You can do many metrics, ASR, ACD, ACC. ACC is the average call cost, TCC is total call cost, DCC, distinct destination count, PDD. So all this you can if you need it. But today I want to talk about the new subsystem, the resource limiter, which handles the resource allocation. So this is, again, can be treated as standalone service. You don't need CGRateS billing to use resource limiter service. So it's just, you configure it, it starts listening on an RPC port, and then you can use it. It has full set of APIs available. It's actually pretty new. I have still some unpushed code in my laptop, but I should stabilize it this week so you can start playing with it. I'll also integrate it into our Kamailio tutorial so you can get all the batteries included so you can start playing yourself without too much risk, I would say. It supports generic event processing, so it doesn't matter for us what sort of event you send. You send us just a hash, and this hash, we map it against filters. So we don't really enforce you. This is also the new way we want to do things. We don't really enforce you to have the data format in some way or the fields in some way. You send us any kind of fields you like. We just compare it with the abstract filters, matching the field name and field value, and we say whether it matches or not. It's performance driven, so we don't use disk. We keep everything in the cache. That makes it quite powerful and fast. We do asynchronous data backup in offline storage, so you don't lose your, if let's say you reboot your Kamailio or you reboot your CGRateS server, you don't want to lose the stats. I don't know how actual they will be after you reboot, but we can store them and retrieve them. We index the filters. Imagine you have few millions of filters. By going on each request through all the few million requests, this will slow down the processing, but instead we index the string type filters, and that means it should be instant finding and instant matching of the rules. So you can also have multiple limit usages updated with one request. Imagine that you want to attach to your customer 5 channels to, let's say, Germany, and I don't know, 10 channels to Europe. So both, with one call to Germany, both of these limits will be matched, and we update both. So you will have one channel usage to Germany and one channel usage to Europe. We also do weight-based sorting. So we will first match the more local information like Germany destination. You can have unlimited filters. There are all sorts of tricks you can do there. So and or between the rules, and also data translation before input, regex matching. I'll show you a few examples. The rules are having lifespan. So you start a call and say, I have a call going to Germany. Then there will be no buy coming for some reason. We are able to auto-expire this based on the usage units time to live. So your resource usage can be automatically refreshed by just using these timers. And also each rule has activation time as well as expiry time. So you can configure rules only for specific interval of time. Then we have usage monitors, which can be used as fraud detection. So you monitor number of channel usage of your customer. You know that he should never get more than 100 channels at peak time. If he gets 100 channels, you shut down his account because it's an attempt of fraud. Some examples of filters, what we have today. So I hope you are able to see something. String matching, this is the fastest, and as I told you, it's indexed. So what will this rule tell? If this rule will match if the account, so there will be a field name account in your request, and will have a value 1001 or 1002. So we can specify as many ors as we want in there. You have an activation time for it, and also a usage time to live. So this record will expire after 1 second, the resource usage. And what you can get through this rule limit, let's say, is limit the number of calls per second from this account, which is kind of cool. String prefix. So for example, you match the destination based on the prefix. So the destination needs to start with 10 or 20. RSR fields. This is the regex. So you can have a field named subject. This is our particular use of regex. You will need to learn our filters. So this subject needs to start with 1 and end with 1. And destination needs to be fully matched 1002. And so actually this is an OR between. Destinations filter, you match your content of the destination field against a list of destinations which we store. So if you want to match all the prefixes for Europe against the destination field of your event or your CDR, you just put all the destination fields in DST, FS or whatever, and you can use this filter destinations. And then there is the CDR stats. Using CDR stats requires our component of CDR stats, so we check CDR stats before allowing this resource. So you can end up with a business case use of limiting the channels based on the stats of your suppliers, which is kind of useful. Coming to Kamailio integration, we communicate with Kamailio via a VoIP module. Actually, Daniel was kind enough to write this module for us at the beginning. All you need to do is configure the URL of your Kamailio server or the URLs, because we support also handling simultaneous more than one Kamailio server from one place. You need to configure VoIP connections in CGRateS. It's fully asynchronous on both sides. So Kamailio does it via event routes, and CGRateS does it within microthreads. In Kamailio script, this is how you do. Normally, I use includes. So this not so nice looking units of code or routes, I keep them separately, so I don't need to see them when I edit my normal routing script. So you see, you can add as many data, as many variables to the request to being sent to CGRateS as you like. In the reply, you process and look for particularly for resource allowed variable. This is what CGRateS will tell us, whether it's true or false. If you have bad luck and it's false, then you can reject the call with resource not allowed. It's pretty straightforward. Some business use cases, limit concurrent calls. This is well known. Limit calls per second per destination. If you like to, you need to, as I told you, to put usage time to live to 1 second. Traffic shaping, you can use CDR stats combined with other rules. For example, limit 5 channels for a destination if ASR smaller than 40%, or assign 10 channels to an account if he's calling a specific destination and ACD for that CDR stats is higher than 10 minutes. Fraud mitigation, you can monitor, as I told you, the channel usage, trigger account disable if threshold reach. If he hits 100 channels in particular time, you disable him. And configure his action triggers profile. So I made it in time. Thank you.
Questions? Do we have one from Simon, first row, and one from Hugh, third row?
Brilliant, Dan, as always. On the example code, I couldn't see any notion of managing call state. So if I was running this on a stateless proxy, would the resource limiter be tracking events to know what, for example, there was a channel being utilized until it got the buy and then remove it, or are you incrementing and decrementing a counter in that?
We do that based on buys, so based on accounting events. So we get an event from Kamailio on buy. like call stopped, and then we decrement the resource usage.
Was that in the code? Because I couldn't
No,
see
that was just for standalone
Right, okay.
resource usage allocation.
Okay.
But it's all published on GitHub, so you can see the full scripting. It was quite some code to add this nice looking
So for channel
script.
tracking, for example, you'd increment on an invite, decrement on a buy,
Yeah.
and track state in between, so you could use it on a status
Yeah, and
proxy.
if you don't get the buy, you still get the
expiry.
auto expiry.
Awesome. Brilliant. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hello.
Yes.
Is it possible to rate a call twice? So, for example, the amount that you're going to charge the customer and how much you're going to be charged by your carrier?
Yeah, you can, as I told you, we use derived charging, so we fork the CDRs into unlimited. You just put one more row telling us the rules, and we can fork it 1,000,000 times if you want for each of your wishes.
Okay, one here.
Hi. How can we configure the price list for the customer or provider?
Yeah, so there are two ways. One is CSV, which is kind of a classic way. So you have CSV's files, or you build your own wizard via APIs. So for that, you need to call API. You need to tell, create me a new rate, create me a new destination, bind the destination with rate, bind the destination rate with time, and then one more call to attach it to a customer. So you need to make a lot of calls, but we handle that over APIs as well. So if you want to do your own tools, we do that.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Thank you very much.